Good morning and welcome back to part 2 of our Khwai adventures. Well, making coffee early in the morning. Last night we could hear very distant lion calls, but it gave us a little bit of hope that maybe we still could find those lions. Of course, yesterday was a beautiful day, finding the leopard, and of course today we plan to head over there and see if it's still around with its kill. And then the main goal of today was to try and find the lions. We've spent a few days now here in Khwai, and we've seen signs of them. Last night was the first time we heard them, but let's see, hopefully we can find them. Well, with the sun just rising, we made our way towards the Khwai Airstrip. You go through these wide open pans as you approach the Khwai Airstrip, but it's a great area to keep your eyes peeled for tracks because the sand is so soft and it's so clear and easy to see. This is just here at the edge of the Khwai Airstrip. You often find a lot of antelope on the airstrip. I think they feel safe on the airstrip because they can see predators approaching them and get away. These were interesting tracks. Now, these tracks here are something that I wouldn't have thought of seeing in Khwai. I'd be very interested if anyone has seen this animal in Khwai. But these were tracks of a brown hyena. And if you look around the edge of this track, you can see the hair marks made by the long shaggy coat of the brown hyena. So often you'll find brown hyena tracks in thick sand because just of where they live, and so often you can't even see the track very clearly, but one thing you will see is that shaggy coat touching the ground, making those little like pinpricks around the track. But this was sunrise, and what a beautiful sunrise it was.
Going to sleep over there.
Well, we decided to head over and see if the leopard would still be with its kill in the tree. And some of you might recognize this pan. That's the Machaba pan. And this little forest is just on the edge of Machaba. And as you can see, we found the leopard. And I'm not going to lie, that photo I just showed you was from the first day. Because we didn't really get any good photos on this particular sighting. He was there in the tree eating his kill, but there was a lot of other vehicles around at this point, which I thought was quite surprising because it was still very early, but good to see people had got up early, although 90% of the vehicles at these sightings this trip were safari vehicles and not self-drive vehicles. More of that later. But this was a beautiful young kudu bull, really very calm. Often they're very shy and run away very quickly. It was nice to see him. This is the crossing again. So of course you might recognize now we're heading towards Mokgotlo. So we cross the river here. I explained about this crossing in our last video, so if you didn't see part 1 of this little mini series, head over and see part 1. But yeah, we are driving here towards Dead Tree Forest, which is near Mokgotlo. It's a good area to find leopards. Often people spot leopard around here, and even lions, but this time the lions weren't around the Mokgotlo campsites, even though we did smell a few dead animals. We kept stopping and smelling. We could smell something dead. I couldn't quite pin it down, but nice to see plenty of zebra around.
Good morning.
Well, this is us now just heading towards the Mokgotlo ablutions. Well, one of the Mokgotlo ablutions. Obviously, each campsite shares an ablution block with a few different campsites. But yeah, here you can see a few of the campsites at the Mokgotlo area. And you see a lot of these camel thorn acacia trees by the campsites. They're beautiful big trees. They do have some big thorns. But actually that is the Mokgotlo tree. It is a camel thorn acacia, and the Setswana name for that is Mokgotlo. So there you go. Fun fact. We came across this beautiful herd of elephants, and they had the tiniest little babies. Very special to just be able to sit and watch. Remember, this is still very early in the morning, and that is the benefit of having such an early morning start. At this point, it's only like 8 o'clock, coming up to 9 o'clock, between 8 and 9 o'clock. In fact, it's just about time for us to stop and have our morning coffee. Well, we made our way to the Hippo Pool, and right by the Hippo Pool is this little peninsula, which is a perfect spot for coffee. So while the hippos wallowed around in their watering hole, we made coffee. By the way, look at those Jim Green boots. I'm obsessed with these boots. Thank you, Jim Green, for booting us out. And yeah, if you're looking for some good boots, not sponsored or anything, do go and check Jim Green boots. They're amazing. I'll link them below. But after a good coffee stop at the Hippo Pool, we decided to heading further away to where we heard those far distant lion calls. You have to keep your eyes peeled on the road because there are little animals as well. And this little chameleon was bright yellow, just trying to cross the road. It's a little flat-necked chameleon. This is probably this year's chameleon. It's still quite a young one. But this is just heading towards the Khwai Chobe cut line, and we've seen lions on this path before. It is about where we were hearing those calls coming from, and we were rewarded by finding these 4 lions. There were 3 females and 1 male. I must say, this lioness, she looked quite pale, but we were so happy to have found them at last, and they were just relaxing under these large trees, and just honestly such a beautiful sighting. While having spent some considerable time chilling with the lions, we decided to move on and see what else we could find. This was a very interesting road because usually this area is very inaccessible because the water is normally too high. But because it's been so dry, it's opened up this whole new region, and now there's this little track that runs along the river basically almost all the way to Mababi. And on the way we found this beautiful herd of buffalo. It wasn't a large herd of buffalo, but it was a very beautiful herd and very interesting to observe how they work together and they really stay knitted together as a herd.
They stop, these guys catch up, they face whatever the thing is going to do. These guys are all living into like these guys.
This area that we were driving through was beautiful. It was such a scenic drive. We really enjoyed it. Plenty of game, lots of antelope, giraffe, zebras, a lot of kudu. A really beautiful drive, and we followed this little road all the way, and we could have continued along the river, but we decided to turn up towards the main road. And interestingly, this road brought us out just 7 kilometers from Mababi. So this definitely turned out to be one of our longer game drives in the morning, and so we turned around and headed back to Khwai. Another 21 kilometers on this road. We'll spare you the journey. Here we are, back at camp, getting ready to settle down for a morning in camp with a good breakfast. Well, bacon, eggs, and of course baked beans for breakfast. Thank you so much for all your baked bean comments on our Naipan video. It made us laugh, and it was great to read all your comments. Leave a comment. What is your go-to bush breakfast? So what do you usually have? I remember when I was a kid, my parents would just give us a cup, normally a tin cup, filled of dry muesli. And we would wake up in the morning and our parents would hand us each a cup with dried muesli. We would jump in the back of the vehicle and go driving around. And that was breakfast and probably lunch too. So yeah, let me know, what is your go-to breakfast in the bush?
Perfect.
After a nice refreshing shower, we made our way back to camp. No elephants trying to ambush us on the way today, which was good. By the way, look at my wife's nice gym green fillies. We love them. Here we are, making gin and tonics, getting ready for the afternoon game drive. Question,
In the front there.
we really like our gin and tonics, but tonic water is becoming a bit of a problem because I feel like so many tonic waters are a bit flat or they're too sweet. So we often buy the sugar-free one, but the sugar-free one that we buy tends to be a bit flat and lack a bit of life. So yeah, if you know of a good sugar-free tonic water, leave a comment. This is us on the Khwai Bridge, heading out for our afternoon game drive. We were quite determined to stop by the Leopard and see if it was there. I must say it's nice when you find like a leopard in a tree somewhere with a kill, or maybe lions with a kill, because you can kind of like check on its progress as the days go past, and so that was something that we really enjoyed doing this trip. Well, it turned out that the leopard was not in his tree. However, there was a lady standing outside her car next to a vehicle underneath the leopard tree. So, strange behavior. She did know that there had been a leopard there. She could see the kill, but she decided to get out of her car and stand underneath the tree. So yeah, sometimes you see some strange behavior by people in the bush. But anyway, maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later with some other context. But yeah, we made our way through, and this was quite funny. Look at this pig. Watch how it does this like little jump. It's like a little spin. Really funny. I think we were all laughing at this, and I think sometimes it reminds us again that it's often the little animals, not the lions, not the leopards, that actually make you laugh and entertain you in the bush. But this is another waterbuck. As I mentioned last video, everyone liked the waterbuck. Those vehicles in the background by the elephants were some other people who decided to get out of their vehicle, and it basically looked like they were trying to touch the elephants. I don't think they actually were trying to touch the elephants. I think they were just trying to get selfies with the elephants. But yeah, more strange behavior. But anyway, I think you see a lot of strange behavior. Maybe that's another interesting comment. Let me know in the comments, what is the strangest thing you've seen other people do in the bush. I always think that's quite funny. It's funny, it's also sad at the same time, but let's just laugh at it for now. This is that same crossing. We just crossed over. We had a little snoop around the Mohotlo side, but then we decided to head back and find a place for sundowners.
Barely.
We chose this little spot in Barbara Pan next to that beautiful dead tree to stop for sundowners, and of course some cheese crackers with a little bit of hams and meats, and of course a gin and tonic. Beautiful, beautiful sundowner. And it would have been the perfect sundowner if my back window didn't fall off. So enjoy the moment it does. There we go. Back window fell off. Yeah, this was fortunately the only breakdown part of the car we had. The back window fell off. That's right. And it also destroyed one plate of cheese crackers. I must say, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed. I'm always disappointed every time I have to take my toolbox out. But a little bit of duct tape and she was good to go. In fact, she's still driving around with duct tape on right now. I have to get it fixed because we are heading to Savuti in just a couple of days. So I'll be taking that duct tape off and fixing my back window and getting us ready for 6 nights in Savuti, which I'm really excited about. And of course, we will make some nice videos hopefully about that, and I think we'll make maybe 3 or 4 videos of those 6 nights, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so if you want to see that, please like, subscribe, comment and all that kind of stuff. But after sundowners we head off to see if that leopard would be around, because I had a feeling that even though there had been a lady standing underneath her tree, I didn't think that the leopard would be too far away. And we were not wrong. Coming out of the bushes right there by her tree, well, by his tree, it was him, the leopard came down to drink. But this was in the Machaba side, so we couldn't drive in after it, so we just parked at a distance and enjoyed the sighting. I will say there was a lot of safari vehicles following him.
Where?
No, it's going.
The hippo. What was that? That cruiser just went in.
It was actually a beautiful sighting, spending time with that leopard. There was a lot of safari vehicles. There was only one self-drive vehicle amongst all the fray of safari vehicles. There must have been about 20 of them, all basically herding that poor leopard along the river. But we decided to stop off at, I think it's probably our favorite spot, the hyena den. And the hyenas were out. It was a bit dark, so it didn't do too much filming. So we just sat there with the hyenas, watched them play a bit before moving on. The light fading fast, we were stopped briefly by this herd of elephants crossing the road, chilling in the road. They had lots of little babies, so we kept our distance and waited for them to cross the road. Well, back at camp, it was time to get that fire going and get some steak and garlic bread cooking. so we can sit around the fire and enjoy the evening. I think it was this evening we sat under the stars. It was so beautiful. The stars were so clear. Really something special about just having the light of the fire and being able to see the stars so clearly. Well, with coffee made, we got out as early as we possibly could for our very last morning drive.
Yeah, you will know if you won.
This is a little drop down that we often take off the main road into a little pan, and we've spotted lions here and wild dogs, and what I think it is a bit of a funnel that happens because of the Mabudi River creating this barrier, and it kind of like funnels the animals into this little like passage. And so we've often had good sightings in that little pan, and so I do make it a habit to kind of drop down there and just see if anything is going on there. This is a little bit of an interesting area. We drive past here so many times, and every time I drove past I would ask everyone, do you know where we are? And finally they knew where we were. This is about where there was a dead elephant, and as you can see the tusk is still attached. And I think if you know Khwai, you'll probably be able to identify whereabouts that is. But yeah, very cool to see, and it's a bit of a landmark for us anyway. It's basically where that dead elephant was. I think we showed that dead elephant in one of our previous videos.
What does the yawn say?
And then when
On our last morning game drive, we really decided to just take it slow and explore some areas that we hadn't been. We drove, often. We drive a lot of kilometers. We drive down almost every single road. And so by the last day, we decided to check up those roads that are not very popular for people to drive. They're out through the Mapani woods, they in the Fever Tree area. So we went and spent a bit of time exploring those areas. With time not on our side anymore and our trip closing to the end, we decided to head back to camp to have our morning coffee, have a little breakfast and pack up camp so that we could get on the road back to Maun as soon as possible. But just as we were turning into camp, we spotted vultures, and the vultures seemed to be low on the horizon, seemed to be dropping out of the sky, and so we decided to drive over and see if we could track them down and see why were they landing. Was there a kill? Well, it turned out there was no kill to be had. In fact, what I think it was the very strong winds were grounding the vultures. And you will often see this is when you have really strong winds, especially at higher altitudes. You will find the vultures come down and rest in the trees, rest on the ground, and it is very easy to be tricked into thinking that maybe there's a kill. Unfortunately, there wasn't a kill. It was just the vultures being blown out of the sky. It was very windy. And so we headed back to camp, and we also stopped by the new Ablutions that Khwai campsite has built. They haven't quite finished them just yet. They're still connecting the water, but they are really beautiful, and I think it's going to be absolutely wonderful to camp at these campsites and have these new Ablutions. I still personally like the old ones, the very rustic feel about them, but it is nice to have a bit of a better Ablutions, and I think many people will enjoy the upgrade. Got the tools over here. Well, there's our beautiful little campsite under the trees. It was interesting to see our little campsite from a bit of a different angle. But it was time to head back to camp and take down the tents, and start getting everything packed up. So while we packed down camp, we also made it a point to make some breakfast, make some coffee, so that the journey back to Maun would be a little bit more comfortable. With a little breakfast of cheese and steak toasties and a good hot cup of coffee, we set about loading up the vehicle. It's always a bit of a job, especially when you've got lots of people with you, to fit everything inside. But many hands made light work of it, and we were soon packed up and ready to go. Well, it's been an absolute beautiful trip. We really enjoyed our time in Khwai. And thank you so much for watching. We really enjoy making these videos, and it makes us really happy to read all your comments and just see all your general support. So many of you have reached out, sent us private messages, asked us questions, and we love hearing from you. Honestly, thank you so much for all the support. We really appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching. Our next video, we will be heading to Savuti for 6 nights, which is actually only in a matter of days. So thank you so much. Bye!